Trans siblings? What?
What?
Huh? Hello everyone, my name is Chloe Alice and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have a special guest. This is my special guest. This special guest has been in my life for about, how old am I? 26 years. This is my brother. This is Blaine. He has just came out as a transgender. He is transgender, female to male. So I will open up the floor for Blaine to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Blaine.
28 years old?
Yeah, I'm 28 years old.
Okay.
Have a kid.
A child.
Yeah, a whole
How old
child.
is your child?
She's 7.
She's 7. When did you realize that you were different than like your normal cis girls? Like I kind of felt like I was different when I was like 12 or so, I would say. I kind of started realizing that I was a little different from your typical like cis boy at my age. So when did you kind of figure that out?
I think that I started to think something was different whenever I was around 7 or 8. Because
That early?
Yeah, well, it's not like I thought like, oh, I think I'm trans. I didn't even really think, oh, I think I want to be a boy at that age, but I hung out with the boys.
Right, okay.
Like I sat at the boys' table.
So kind of like a tomboyish kind of?
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
sort of like I definitely was called a tomboy. With puberty, my mental health got really bad, and between like that and high school, I knew something was up more
Right.
than just like not quite fitting in.
Definitely. I definitely get that. When did you realize that you were trans?
I realized I was trans when I was about 16 or 17 years old.
Okay.
I had gone through like trying to figure out where I fit in. I think I came out as bi one time. I'm not bi. And then I came like online. I think this is how most people figure it out. But online, I came across a forum or something where people were talking about being transgender, and I was like, oh my god, that's it.
Right.
Like that's the one.
That's definitely awesome. Like everybody kind of finds their own way of like realizing what they are, and I realized that I was trans when I was around 15 or 16, and kind of the same way. I knew that I was different when I was 12, and then I had came to like looking up YouTube videos and stuff and seeing people who were like cross-dressing or people who were like trans, and I was like, well, I definitely am not just cross-dressing. I'm definitely more of like I feel this way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I landed on trans. Now there was something personal that kind of went on in your life. So you said that you started learning around 16 or 17 that you were trans.
Yeah.
Did you ever express that like to
Yes.
anybody? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around like a little bit after I realized that about myself, I came out to people at school first, and
Your friends.
for the most part, they were supportive. They did their best to respect my pronouns and my name. And then I came out to my mom, our mom.
Okay. Yeah, it is our mom. Hi, Mom.
And what happened, so I think I was going to like a football game that night or something. So I wrote her a note and I left for the football game thinking she'd have time to process and that would make it easier.
Right. You're young, you know.
Yeah.
You're not really knowing how
I was a
things are
kid.
going to go down and stuff like that.
I was a kid
like,
and I was scared.
You're going through things as well as a kid. You're trying to like kind of figure out how you are in your own mind, and then like
Yeah.
as also like kind of letting some other people into
Yeah.
to this and
And you know, like everybody hears about when things go bad.
right. So then how did Mom kind of react?
I remember her crying, and I remember her like asking what she did wrong to make me this way. Trying to understand sexuality and how that relates to gender.
Right.
Basically saying like, if you like boys, then why would you want to be a boy?
Right. I feel like that's a typical thing for
Yeah.
like for not really people who just don't understand, but people who are like trying to figure it out, but they don't really realize that sexual orientation and gender orientation are two separate things. Like you can like feel a certain way about yourself, but you can also like a multitude of different things. Like
Yeah.
so you can be like there are plenty of straight people, there are plenty of gay men, there are plenty of lesbian women, you know,
Right.
and then there are plenty of people who are transition that prefer the opposite, you know. So it's definitely a large spectrum, and the more you kind of learn about it, the more you kind of understand. But I definitely feel where she's coming from. Like, that is something hard to grasp, especially if your child is just
I completely blindsided her. She was 100% not prepared.
right. And as far as like the what did I do wrong and stuff like that, like that is one thing. When I did come out as trans, my dad was one of my hugest supporters, and I always thought to myself, like, I don't want my dad thinking that what did he do wrong to create this child, you know? If anything, I would say that my dad did an amazing job creating me and making me into a wonderful, kind-hearted person, you know? And then that has, like, nothing to do with it, you know? Because I didn't want, like, his friends saying, like, oh, you raised, like, your child terrible, now they want to be a girl, like, blah, blah, blah. And I never want to think like that. But
It didn't occur to me to address that beforehand.
Right.
Because it didn't have anything to do with her at all.
And it really doesn't. Yeah, everybody's different. Everybody like thinks different ways. So, and yeah, exactly.
But so yeah, that it was really heated. We'll say, and it ended up with her calling my dad. To be clear, not the same dad.
Right, different dad. We're half siblings, but not full siblings. But yes, we have different dads, same mom.
He kind of asked me what had happened, and I kind of told him what had happened. And he told me, "Aw, baby, well, you'll always be my little girl no matter what."
Right.
And I think he was genuinely trying to be comforting. I think he was trying to help.
But I feel like that was not
it didn't help.
Right.
So I went to my dad's, and a few days later, I mean, I was devastated. A few days later, I wrote an email to my mom and told her...
An email?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told her, listen, I take it back. It's not worth it. Never mind.
Right. Oh, I care what people think, you know? So I'm going to do what I want to do, or not what I want to do, but what's going to make you happy and uncomfortable. Yeah. And that definitely sucks. But it's kind of good to get that experience, honestly, because I get so many questions about, like, how do I come out to people, or how do I come out to my parents, and like what happens if it turns out badly? In this situation, like, not that it was an extremely bad situation,
it never got dangerous,
but it was a kind of a downside. That's cool that you have that experience and being able to like express that and explain that to people, you know, and like do better the next time.
Well, like what I took out of it, as far as positivity, is, to me, I felt like I took that blow so that you didn't have to.
Right. Well, it's actually funny that you bring that up, because I actually knew what trans was whenever you kind of went through this situation.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And so I kind of like watched from the sidelines of this situation going on. And I'm thinking to myself at the beginning, I'm like, hey, I kind of want to tell you that, like, I have these feelings too, but then that happened, so I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything at all. So then
a few years later, you told me.
A few years later, and that's actually what kind of vaulted me into starting transitioning at the very beginning, is because I wrote you a message because I wanted to know kind of more information on how the whole situation went down, and then my partner at the time saw that and was like, whoa. We need to have this conversation. Talking about it definitely made it a lot easier to kind of reassure myself that, like, yeah, this is kind of what I am.
Yeah.
So you went back to being a girl and doing those things, and in that time you had a kid, and
I was married.
Married, okay, and so she's 7 now, and now you're 28, right?
Yes, I'm 28.
And you just recently decided again that you want to try and step out and transition.
Yes.
Now, at 28. Why now?
I thought about gender constantly, and sometimes it was all I could think about. And I kind of realized, like, I'm in a safe place where I live now. My fiance is incredible. I've never been safer.
Right.
So I kind of knew that no matter what happened now, I would be okay.
Mm-hmm. And your fiance is totally okay with your situation, and
he was my boyfriend in high school when I came out the first time.
Nice. Okay. And that's super awesome. I know that you are trying to have another child. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you want to have another child before you start taking like hormones and actually start transitioning?
Yeah.
And so why is that?
I feel like I'm in a privileged position.
Okay.
Because a lot of gay men and a lot of transgender people don't really get the opportunity to have biological children anyway. And I'm in a position where I can. And that's something that I've always wanted, was children.
Right.
So I feel like while I have decided to transition now, we're trying. So hopefully it happens sooner rather than later.
Right.
And then after that, and after that child's no longer relying on my body for their needs, then I will feel comfortable transitioning.
Right. Well, and I kind of understand. Whereas like some people probably wouldn't understand, like you're trying to transition, so like why would you even want to be in the position of being pregnant again?
Yeah.
And it's very typical like woman thing, which is very like broad and a very like no, it's not, you know, because obviously there's a man that
I mean, I will
to...
be the first trans man to
exactly.
have had a kid.
So, and I honestly don't think you would be, you know, so there are a lot of trans men who probably go through this situation too. As far as me, I definitely wanted to have my own kids. I definitely wanted to be able to have like a mini me, you know, but I got to the point where I needed to start my hormones, and I had to make a choice. Where is, do I care about, and it was super expensive too. So I had to make a choice. Whereas like, do I care more about my transition, or do I care about having my own child, or could I eventually adopt in the future? And I know that you'll probably run into that too, because if you don't get pregnant sooner, you know, or if it takes say a year to get pregnant, and then you have to wait a year and a half after that to like. After the 9-month period of being pregnant, and then a year and a half after that to make sure that the baby gets everything that they need. Before you start hormones, you're going to be like 32, you know, 30, 31, 32. So there has to come to a time where you got to choose yourself, you know, over that. And I know that you're more than comfortable of like putting things off and putting yourself off for others, but you know.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think that if I wasn't in the position that I'm in now, I probably would go ahead and start transitioning.
Right.
But I'm in a position now where we are ready to have a kid. We're financially okay.
Right.
We have a good home.
But obviously, you're starting to appear more masculine. Like you want to cut your hair now even more. You wear a binder all the time. Like you dress very masculine, and you're comfortable with that, and that's okay. And you've told people that you go by Blaine, and you would prefer to use the he pronouns even before taking hormones, which is completely okay. I mean, I gave myself a year. Transitioning before going on hormones, because I wanted to make sure that this is exactly what I wanted to do, because it is a huge like decision in your life, you know.
For sure.
And like once you start taking hormones, there's not really a back, you know.
No.
So because it can mess up a lot of things, and it is very dangerous to like try and go back. So it's definitely a huge decision. But on the upside, like, if it's something that you feel very strong about, then, you know, it's your life. How do you feel now, since you've started transitioning and since you've, like, kind of come out and stuff?
Relieved, mostly. I feel relieved. Anxious.
Right.
Of course, like, even though I said all the things I just said about waiting, I obviously I want to transition as soon as I can. I've been putting it off for a decade.
Right.
I have very supportive friends. My fiance is incredible. My parents are a lot more understanding now than they once were.
I feel like I have a little bit of help to that.
Yeah.
It's not every day that a family gets to go through like a person who is trans, let alone two trans people that are opposite, which is I think is super fascinating, and it's really cool to be able to kind of share our experiences back and forth, and how yours are completely different from how mine are, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, like, God, I wish I was born a woman. Like, why would you want to be a man? And you're here like, why couldn't I have been born a man? Like, what is this? So it's definitely super interesting, and it's really, really cool that we get to have this like kind of connection as like and I feel like it's brought us closer as family members too, which is really
for
cool.
sure. I know that like I felt closer to you since you came out to me. Mm-hmm. Out of all the people, you chose me.
I mean, you kind of know why. Like, I was in the situation, but then you're like,
sense.
wow, like
I was a good choice,
right.
but it made me feel special anyway. So that made me want to be closer.
Right, which is cool. So being a person of your stature and your experience, you have come out twice now. One a little rougher, and then the second time more accepting. So do you have any advice or anything, tips that you can kind of tell somebody that's trying to come out in the future, maybe some future trans people that give them some positivity or...
Honestly, I think if you have a reason to believe that your family isn't going to be accepting or that you could be put in a dangerous situation, it's hard, but I think that it's safer for you to wait until you can move out.
Definitely.
I think that like in that if you have a really open-minded family, this is probably not an issue that you'll have, but if you don't put yourself in danger. You have lots of time left.
Absolutely. Like your time is definitely not over. I waited until I was already moved out of the house, and this wasn't really by like I chose to wait. It was more of just like I was kind of scared of what people thought, and then it got to the point where I wasn't. And luckily it happened when I was out of the house.
Yeah.
Not saying that like it would have been bad if I was in the house, but it probably would have went a little different, and I probably would have like caved in and said that this is not going to be how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely if you feel like
me,
if you definitely feel like it's going to be a bad situation, I would try our best to wait. Maybe talk to like a few friends and kind of tell them how you feel, and not really bring it up to like family members yet. And then when you can afford to move out and kind of make your own decisions and you're not living under somebody's roof, then what you could start kind of expressing that.
They can't make you do anything anymore because you're not there.
Exactly. Do a lot of research before you come out as whatever you're trying to come out as. Like definitely watch YouTube videos, look up articles, like do a whole bunch of research. That way if the person that you're coming out to has any questions, you can answer them, and you can make them feel very reassured because you've studied this, you have answers. You know what, if people ask like, oh well, why are you gonna transition if you like boys? You know, you can have those questions, you can have those answers. So
they'll ask you the questions you're not prepared to answer.
Exactly. And they will. And just know that you got a long life, and there's always time, and it's never not the right time. You know, so make time for yourself, and you know, be happy. Well, thank you so much, Blaine, for being here. If you guys have any questions for Blaine, please leave them in the comments below. Blaine will be on there answering any questions you guys have. If you want to see Blaine in any more videos, comment down below, let us know, see if we can get Blaine in here. It's definitely pretty awesome that we do have the insider of female to male and male to female in the same family. Not very many people get that. So it's really cool. If you guys have any questions, just leave them down below. If you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. I'm going to post videos every week or so. I'm trying to get to the point where I can do it twice a week. So there will be a lot more content to come. So please subscribe for more. It's been awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.
Bye.
See, I messed up already. So, but that would be something.
This is fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine. We're cool. Okay.